Fans, welcome back for the Working Fans Comedycast, episode 49. This week, we are going to be doing a review of Team America World Police. Now, next week, January 25th, episode 50, we will be reviewing, or we won't be reviewing, we'll have a discussion about the sketch comedy show In Living Color. Let me play the intro video. We'll bring in Dave, and we will start talking about this movie from 2004.
Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3 and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
Now, before we begin this show, as always, we are brought to you by Wrestleville. Author Vinnie Berry wrote The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 1, 35 short stories from across the wrestling landscape. You have NWA champions, Hall of Famers. There are so many good stories in this book. Go pick a copy up at wrestleville.com or lancebychance.com. And the added bonus is every book comes autographed by one of 11 stars appearing in the book. Now, another book that Vinnie Berry wrote, Lance by Chance, Wrestling is a Von Erich, written with Lance Vaughn. It's how Lance Vaughn became Lance Von Erich and then settled back into Lance Vaughn and the wild life he had outside of wrestling. Now, I botched Lance's first name, but Dave, we're doing a lot of recording today. We're doing a lot of running around. Dave and I ate a poutine pizza. We are running wild today. Dave, how you doing? I didn't ask you during the last one.
I got some poutine farts going on right now. I tried to hide the vibrations on this.
I know we had to talk about shits between shows because I had to take a little break because I had to drop one, fix the internet. You saw some issues with that last broadcast, but we are back on here and we are talking Team America World Police. This is the third movie we're covering in this new revamp of the Comedycast. And Dave, do you like doing the movie reviews versus the 531? Because honestly, for me, I haven't settled into what I like yet. I feel like we could do better on the movie reviews, but there's also like only so much time we're going to throw in because we're working fans, man. We have day jobs.
That's it's harder to sit down and watch a movie than it is to debate like a topic for us, I feel like, because generally with a topic, it just kind of comes out there a little more natural. We can go back and forth.
Yeah, we can come in and AJ Strange brew it with next to no preparation. And the thing I will say, these first 3 movies, there's a thing about movies nowadays where they almost seem to run overly long. Mm-hmm. The one thing I've noticed is with Team America and especially Happy Gilmore, they felt like they went by in no time.
Yeah.
Monty Python, a little bit longer of a movie, but still didn't feel as laborious as some modern movies. Like I sat through the new Matrix recently. That felt long. Being the Ricardos on Amazon, that's almost a 2-hour commitment. When you get a nice hour and a half movie, that helps so much.
Yeah, it definitely does. Makes it a little easier. This was a novel concept too. This movie with puppets.
Yeah, and we will actually get into that, but we're going to start off, as always, with the synopsis of this movie. Yes. Broadway actor Gary Johnston is recruited by an elite counterterrorism.
Who are you, Dave Smith?
Recruited by the elite counterterrorism organization Team America World Police. As the world begins to crumble around him, he must battle with terrorists, celebrities, and falling in love. On Rotten Tomatoes, this got a 77% on the tomato meter and 80% on the audience score. How did you enjoy watching this movie? I assume it was the first time in a while.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters. That was the last time I saw it. So what was that? 2000? Did you read it? 2002?
2004.
4? Yeah. Yeah, much better in the theater the first time I saw it. I saw it with some friends, and it was just like a really good experience when I saw it. This was okay. I was kind of busy, it's the work week, right? So sometimes that's the one thing about these. Sometimes, right, I don't want to settle into a movie, But it was interesting. It kept my attention. So
Yeah, especially being a puppet movie that doesn't happen too often. It was almost in that old Thunderbird style.
yeah,
Now, it is starring the team of Trey Parker and Matt Stone,
South
also
Park.
known for South Park.
Yeah.
Trey Parker plays Gary Johnston, Joe, Kim Jong-il, Hans Blix, Carson, Matt Damon, Drunken Bar, Tim Robbins, Sean Penn, Michael Moore, Helen Hunt, Susan Sarandon. He covers a lot of roles. Matt Stone, on the other hand, as Chris, George Clooney, Danny Glover, Ethan Hawke, and some additional voices. Now, this was written by Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and Pam Brady, directed by Trey Parker. So you would almost expect him to do less voices, but he does more. And this is a wild ride. It's produced by Frank Agnone. He was a co-producer. Scott Aversano, executive producer. Pam Brady, producer, who was uncredited. Ann Garofino was an executive producer. Trey Parker was a producer. Michael Polaire, co-producer. Scott Rudin, producer. Matt Stone, producer. So
Pam Brady.
Pam Brady, and featuring like a very South Park centric crew. Now, from what I read, when they presented this to the studio, the opening scene where it's like that shitty little puppet thing that opens the movie,
right?
Apparently, that's the first thing that the studio execs saw, and they freaked out, like, "Oh no, they fucked us!" And then that pulls back, just like the opening of the movie does, because they kept it in the movie. But it pulls back from that shitty puppet to another puppet operating that, and then the wild Paris scene that they had. And I thought that was a funny little bit of, trivia from this, because that whole movie, I thought it was done really well. The set pieces looked great. Like, considering what they were working with, I thought they put out a masterpiece.
Yeah, it was unique. That's all I can say. These guys, they had some balls on them to make a movie about puppets, but they were hugely popular around this time. South Park might have been even at its peak around here. Maybe not, but it was definitely around there.
It was up there because, I would say this is probably 5 years after they came out, so they were probably really feeling it by then. And you got to be over to have a puppet shitting on another puppet's face stay in a movie. That might have just been on the DVD, by the way, because I have the
puppet shitting on the face. That's why
that must be a DVD exclusive, because that was during the sex scene, and I know like it was like special unrated, but this movie went over the top with it, especially going after terrorists and things like that.
Film Actors Guild.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. Like, you're gonna make FAG an acronym that you can work with, and it's just the chances you got to take. And I think with South Park making it so big, it's almost wild to think that these guys took chances like that back then.
It is pretty wild. Yeah, they made fun of everybody though. That was just what they did.
Yeah, because when I was reading reviews, it almost said like they don't rag on any one specific person. They almost go after everybody.
Right.
Which is wild. Well, yeah, they go after terrorism. They go after the terrorists. Oh wow, we got people in the comments. Randy Oscar, how's it going? Yeah, I had to get that haircut this week. It was getting a little wild on the sides. Randy, what was your thought of Team America? Because this was something I'm actually going onto Facebook now, because I did not write down my comments. And as always, the Mothership Facebook group coming in huge. Now, Dave, is this a movie you think you would watch again? Or do you think?
Not really. Not that I wouldn't, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. It's fun. It's funny. Like the songs are great. I thought
That
it
was
interesting-
another thing I forgot about because America, fuck yeah, obviously
yeah.
that made it big.
Also,
It-
Kim Jong Il, I'm so lonely.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
Or like the country rock song when Gary goes to the Capitol and he's like almost trying to find his inspiration.
Or like what was it? Pearl Harbor sucks. That one too. He did
Yeah.
that. Like it was very creative. Yeah. It was interesting the Kim Jong Il one too because it almost felt like they were trying to make him a little more sympathetic. Like he was this evil dictator, and they're like, it'd be funny if he was just this real lonely guy that was misunderstood. Let's make that out of thing,
Yeah, I mean, you're making Kim Jong Il sympathetic. You're making Michael Moore more than not sympathetic. I mean, they went hard against him because, from what I remember, one of the guys from South Park was featured in his movie. And the thing that the guy from South Park had a problem with was apparently Michael Moore put the guy from South Park's interview right before the cartoon that Michael Moore had in the movie. So the South Park guy got a little upset, almost thinking that you're setting it up to make it look like that was his cartoon in the movie.
Right. I can see
And
that.
I mean, they go hard against him midway, but we're going to get to the fan comments now. We kind of breezed through this movie, but
yeah, I mean,
there's not a ton to say about it. It's a fun enough movie. If
yeah.
you're looking for something really raunchy, it's
don't
there.
don't be offended by stereotypes. They are gonna blow some stereotypes out there. It's interesting. The one other thing I'll make reference of is they're looking for the terrorists, and it's like the cantina scene in Star Wars.
I was about to bring that up because they make him up to look like a terrorist, where they just kind of tanned his face a little bit and like glued hair.
Cube hair on him, yeah.
And then they had him go in, and that's what I was thinking. He goes in, and it's just so reminiscent of that cantina scene that I loved it. And also a fun fact I wanted to write down when they do the scene in Panama.
Yeah.
If you look around the set, aside from a couple palm trees, all the other trees are cannabis trees. You can see it from the leaves in certain scenes, but it's just wild that they snuck it in there.
Where's your eagle? I would get that.
I actually looked it up on IMDb, and it might have popped up on
known drug user producer.
Now, Dan Titus said, I liked it, was hoping for a sequel, but Parker and Stone say it will never happen. That makes sense because there's got to be a level of popularity you get to where you can't get away with that anymore. And
Right.
even if you're known for the controversy, it's not necessarily going to help your brand.
They attacked a ton of Hollywood actors on this movie.
Oh, yeah. Harry Priest from the Mothership Facebook group said, loved it at the time, watched it recently, and wasn't as good as I remember. Durka. I'll say the same thing. Like, I remember really liking it then. I put it third on our movies we were going to review this year because I thought we would get more laughs out of it.
Yeah.
I still see a lot of the comedy, but it doesn't hit to me like it
Right. Like it's creative. I appreciate it, but I feel like I'm watching it more from an appreciation standpoint than it's a laugh a minute like it used to be.
Yeah, and it really came out at a time when tensions were still high off of 9/11. I mean, this is still 3 years afterwards. So probably everybody's, I guess, openness to that type of comedy would be fine. Now we're almost at a different place in society where I'm not going to say it brings up bad memories of that time, but it just doesn't hit like it necessarily used to. Pat Sigsworth says, fuck yeah. Albert Bettis says, loved it. Joe Wilson says, great in its time. Jace Nacarado has a little thing here. He says, great in its time. I remember when it first came out, I was 15 and I could never get my dad to take me, as I believe it was R-rated. I didn't really bother my parents with that kind of stuff because they didn't get that kind of humor. I have such a vivid memory of rushing to the bathroom during a family party and talking to my friend on the phone about it while giggling and laughing at imagining every description he told me about the movie as he'd seen it earlier that day. I remember howling listening to his impression of Michael Moore Puppet, sacrificing himself at the Team America compound, and imagining all the mustard on his shirt. Now, can you imagine how funny a movie's got to be for you to be laughing as your friends describing it to you.
Right.
And I mean,
I
that
mean,
just kind of talks about that time. Also being 15. That's
I
like
just remember
right
watching
in that.
with
What's
my
that?
buddy Rob. I remember watching the thing with my buddy Rob and him just laughing and howling so loud. It was like, I was like, ha ha ha, and like everybody, like, I think we had a friend actually a couple rows back. He like went up and found us. He's like, I knew that was you.
Now, what is it? Nate McGonigal says America, fuck yeah.
Mm.
Mike Barisi says Matt Damon.
Matt
Troy
Damon.
Troy El Guapito Smith says genius.
That's a great name. Let's not pass over that.
Christopher Bennett, brilliant and could never get a wide release today.
Mm.
Yeah, this would almost be a Netflix exclusive,
Yeah,
or
that film actors guy thing might get him trashed. Plus, they just go after everybody. I just can't imagine it. Yeah.
Darren Anderson, best puppet movie ever. Andrew Armstrong, fuck you, Hans Bricks. Scott Martin, cool idea. Not particularly funny, a bit too broad. Crap politics. Typical edgy, nothing matters. Both sides are bad. Wishy washy BS. I don't. We'll take crap politics out of it.
Yeah.
What it definitely is, it's edgy.
Yeah.
It does have a nothing matters feel, but
Right.
instead of both sides are bad, wishy washy bullshit, I looked at it as they're not just aiming at one side, they're aiming at the ridiculousness of
Yeah.
everything
Mhm.
and kind of looking at everybody's part in that. So I
I
don't
hate
have
to say
much
it.
of a negative connotation on
And
that.
I could be wrong. I don't know. And I didn't read this. And I don't know the person who sent that in, and I'm not attacking them. But usually when I hear a comment like that, I wonder if somebody's a little more partial to one side than the other. Because when I hear it, I'm like, yeah, they attacked everybody. Who gives a fuck? I think it's all bullshit too. So
Yeah, you almost feel like that's probably somebody who's maybe more invested in politics.
yeah, and God bless you if you are, because I probably should be, but I'm not. So
Until I started appearing on the More Perfect Union podcast, I had no interest in
that was this week's folks. So he's new to the game.
Yeah, I'm new to it and I don't particularly like it, but I mean, I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. I don't follow politics enough because it's it's always such doom and gloom and there's just such nasty stuff going on in the world on a day-to-day basis that
Yeah.
sometimes it's just fun to talk about the entertainment part of life and get into it that way.
Dick jokes and fart.
Exactly. Now, the last comment I have here is from Steve Salomonson,
Mm.
who says, funny as hell at the time it was made. Some of the jokes now are outdated, some are more pertinent, and most are, of course, insensitive, still funny AF.
Mm.
I agree with that. Some of the jokes are outdated, but like we said, it was a political climate
Yeah.
in 2004 that while some of the same sentiments are still there, I wouldn't say we're in as dire a situation as it felt like back then. And this really gave some much needed comic relief to a time when they were flying planes into buildings. We were getting involved in a war, and just the world felt so heavy at that point that you needed this to break the tension. And that's why you have Puppets Fuck on film, obviously.
Yeah. Obviously.
Now, some of
and
our
oral too. We didn't see it, but it was alluded to that one of the puppets.
Oh, yeah.
The guys off too.
Now
For freedom.
Now, the favorite scenes in this, I really like that opening scene in Paris from the shitty puppet to you see the whole world. And then when they're going after the terrorists, they blow up the Eiffel Tower, which
Yeah.
crushes the Arc de Triomphe. And they just fuck up Paris. And then they're like, we got them. And they just leave.
Right.
And I mean,
Yeah.
at a time, it almost maybe part of America felt like that's what we were doing around the world. You can chase these terrorists. It doesn't matter the wake that you leave behind you. Gary in Washington with that country song. I really enjoyed that. Obviously, the America Fuck Yeah song. Like you talked about earlier, Gary going into that blue door the first time he meets up with the terrorist, and you get that ode to the Cantina bar.
Yeah.
And then the Film Actors Guild. That's a joke that works on so many levels. It's offensive, and it's almost a dangerous joke for them to do. being in the film business, taking shots like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The cantina scene. There's the vomit scene.
The vomit scene was another really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's all, I don't want to say all gold, but yeah, I would say that there's just a lot of crazy stuff. If you've never seen it, yeah, you should check it out. And unless you're easily offended.
You get into the next comment. Randy Osgood, do you recommend this movie to watch? If you've never seen it, 100%.
Yeah.
If you have seen it, be in the mood for it, or show it maybe to somebody that hasn't seen it. And you'll at least get a kick out of it once. Anything after that might be overkill. Now, here's an interesting question. If you guys could make your own movie, what would it be? Dave, let's try and keep the answers PG here. Remember, you're a family man now. You can't be going all wild.
Yeah, producer Joe, man, they call Dave, going deep. It's a love story about trying to get my man Joe to chase his dreams. And I haven't thought it out completely yet, but
I
don't know.
say,
You know what? I would probably I'd do like a documentary of some of the bullshit we've gone through and some of the crazy stuff we've done. AJ Brown looks so good with this, by the way. Sorry, AJ.
If we're talking about if we can make any type of movie would want to make, I think a horror movie would be interesting. But if Randy's thinking about a movie that maybe we could feasibly make on our own, I would think almost like a documentary movie of us putting on our first show.
Yeah.
Where, we've booked a venue. We've got 3 comedians, or we've got a comedian, a musical act.
Cool. Yeah.
And, we put on a live show. Then we document it for a movie. To me, that would be the ideal one. Now, little does Randy know, we tried doing this when AJ did his first comedy show in a while. We taped the whole show. The video looked beautiful from what we saw. The audio cut out. And, it would have been cool to have our own like little mini documentary, but who knows? Maybe it's down the way. Like right now, we're really trying to get the podcasting under our feet. Randy didn't know that because it didn't make the light of day. And luckily I didn't talk about it too much beforehand. Like I had this idea going into that night that we would do that, but it didn't work out. I mean, we were filming driving down to the venue just so I would have a title screen to put in there. I mean, maybe eventually, like when we did the interview with Dame FK, we talked about possibly doing a live show at some point.
Would like to do
have
it.
that kicking around in our head.
2022.
We know enough musical acts, podcasters, comedians that we could put some kind of show together. That would be really awesome. And we'll see what this year brings. Now, going back to Team America, I mean, I think we've really said all we can about this movie. Dave, what's one final note you want to say about the movie? I'll say something final, and then we'll go out from there.
America. Fuck yeah.
I was going to sing the next line because I know it's something about like, what is it, suck our dicks and choke on our balls or something?
Yeah. Duka duka.
I don't know if that's word for word. Randy, thank you for that. We might have some big news coming soon out of one of our camps. But hey, if one of us is winning, all of us are winning over here. And guys, we hope to see you again next week on the Working Fans Comedy Cast.